So it's 7 p.m. Thank you for joining the race around the Coorest Corner. I want to introduce you to Michael Corkery. He is founder of RPM, Ready Player Motor Races, and as we always start with your introductions. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you. It's Ready Player Motorsports is the name of the game, or the metaverse, actually.
Sorry for that.
No problem. Well, I mean, in terms of, I'm the CEO and founder of the game in the metaverse. I come from the world of traditional finance. So I'm an analyst by training, but I spent most of my career, at least the last 15 years, either in the Middle East or Europe, doing private equity transactions and fixed income transactions. I started working in crypto a couple of years ago, and was immediately sort of, I guess I drank the Kool-Aid right away. I just realized in terms of ease of use and functionality and utility and all the different solutions that it creates for either the currency side of things or the logistical side of things, and how you maybe move something from one place to another, or let's say you sell a building, and instead of doing it as a private equity transaction, you could do it as a token offering. And so I think I just realized that there was just no point in going back to traditional finance. And so at that point, the idea became, well, how do I get involved in this in a different way? I mean, I was working at a centralized exchange. Those are a necessary evil in the world, but they're not really the most inspiring places. And there's limitations to what really can go on an exchange, especially if it's not top 5, top 10. And so I started just making relationships through that, and just being involved with crypto projects, that I began getting asked to advise on projects or help with projects. And it sort of a consultancy kind of grew out of that. And then when the opportunity came to build a game, and especially a play to earn game, it was really an opportunity to sort of really build something that could be a functional and sustainable ecosystem. And I think that's what has always intrigued me about blockchain projects, is that you can create sort of different worlds, or you have the ability to create a new world in our, let's say, our 3D dimensional world, and you also have the opportunity to create one in the metaverse, right? And so a game is a really good way of doing that, because a game has to function. It has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There has to be rewards. There has to be all these different things that mimic transactions in the real world. And so you can kind of create a really healthy ecosystem via a metaverse, or via a play to earn game, that can then grow into something much more. And so that's really where I got involved with the game. We started talking about it at the end of October of last year. It had a different name, and it was just sort of an idea. And so it really took some time to really develop it into Ready Player Motorsports, and then into the game and the way that it looks and feels, and sort of something that has a life of its own now. And so that's my bio. I mean, I can go into greater detail if you have specific questions. But I guess, I think it's like most people who are in crypto, is they were doing something before, and then they had an aha moment, and then they got involved with crypto, and they kind of, as I said, burned their boats and just focused on trying to do things in the crypto world. So that's kind of where I came from, and how I arrived to where we are today.
Yeah, well, of course, we already talked multiple times to each other, but tell us more about why racing. Is it something that you are a fan of, or is it, how did you come up with the concept?
Well, I came up with the concept of Ready Player Motorsports, but the original concept was connected to an online car sales platform. There's an American car platform that was I think it's the largest platform to buy a car with crypto. And so the idea was to blend the game in the platform, so that you could buy a car off the platform, and we could turn it into an NFT race car, and you could drive it in the game. And that's something that we still want to do. But that was really the impetus for a race game. And also, a race game is a fairly simple type of game. I mean, everyone knows what a race game is. Anybody can play it for the most part. And also, it's something that, you know, I think most little boys growing up enjoy driving cars or playing race games, and it's something that, you know, to a dream to be able to design one. And I think that's kind of where, when it became something that, I mean, because we were dealing with, let's say, more quote unquote serious projects where they were, you know, tokenizing certain assets, or they were doing, you know, more traditional things, but with the crypto bend. And this was totally something where it was, you know, a kind of a work of kind of a passion play that we could focus on. And so I think the idea is that we were all car guys. We all like to play racing games when we were kids. And finally, the technology is where it is today, where we can actually go out and build one, was really attractive. And also we could kind of keep it simple and we can control it so that we could build things around it, or make it sort of a coherent game and also a coherent metaverse ecosystem. And you know, like, all of us could understand what a racetrack complex is, right? And the things that go on in a racetrack and what you would need to operate a racetrack. And so it's, you know, in some ways it was sort of a prepackaged concept that we then branded it our own way and created it in our own sort of image. But I think part of it was the reason for racing was born out of just simplicity and necessity. And the other side was sort of a passion for cars, and just the, you know, they're just cool. So it's fun, and it's very satisfying to see the advancement and the involvement, the evolution of the game, and just getting to, you know, see it and play it. You know, it's a very satisfying feeling, is to play your own video game, and with your own car that you've designed with the designers, and on the track that you've designed with your own designers and stuff like that. And so I think there's an addictive quality there that also drives us. But I think that was, you know, it's kind of a two-pronged reason why we went with a racing game.
Yeah, because what I've seen so far is that the graphics are amazing. It's very cool. But if we, having an idea is one thing, but yeah, really go execute it into something, into the metaverse it is right now. So if we're diving into more in the technical parts, can you tell us something more about the smart contracts behind the concept, behind the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the developer of those smart contracts, so I can give sort of a 30,000-foot view. But, you know, I think the critical component that we have with this game and these smart contracts is that the smart contracts are written in such a way where in-game data is stored on chain. And so like an in-game upgrade to your car will be retained within that NFT. And if you go to sell that NFT, that value will be retained. And also the gameplay will be retained. And I think those two concepts there are really, really important, because yeah, we have a racing game is a fairly simple concept, right? But if you add those two factors to it, it creates all sorts of permutations of what can be done. I mean, first of all, having the ability for the smart contracts to retain higher performance and, let's say, better handling and these types of things allow for a person that wants to build up that asset and then sell it at a later date to retain the value that's been created into that asset. You know, I mean, if I look at from my traditional background of traditional finance, you know, an asset that has the ability to grow and to grow not only in principal but in cash flows is a much more valuable asset than, let's say, a much more reliable asset than, let's say, like a painting, which can go for lots of money. But what differentiates a $1 million painting versus a $5 painting? The materials are
exactly.
You know, and so our understanding of where the racing world was within the play to earn space was that, okay, we may not be able to. I mean, we thank you for the compliment on the graphics, and we have a great art department, and it's just so much fun to make this stuff, and we love making it look beautiful, and we'll continue to do so. But we understand that we're not at that level of like a AAA rated, game, and so what we're looking to do also is to sort of supplement that with other features that other games don't have. And I think for the play to earn racing space, we're unique in the sense that we have particular smart contracts. And so our developer, Brian, hopefully will join. He might be able to join today, or if not, maybe you do another one, or he can answer any questions on his Discord. We can have an AMA on our channel about all the technical details. But I mean, it's been kind of an on the fly thing. So they were just finished testing like late last week, and then we went to mint right away. So we haven't even had a proper opportunity to really go, and I haven't had a chance to do a total deep dive and get all the nuances of it. But from the gist of it, and the most important thing is what we discussed, which was the fact that on chain. Everything is stored on chain, and also from another competitive sense or an e-gaming sense, storing everything online or on the blockchain allows us to do all sorts of cool tournaments. We have a global leaderboard where people can see how they compare. Like when you went to, I think we had this conversation when we spoke last week, was that if you went to a pizzeria when you were a kid and there was a Pac-Man machine and there was a high score, right? Well, that was the high score for that Pac-Man machine at that pizzeria. Well, where we can do it now in the entire world simultaneously. And so I think that will also be kind of cool to see how these drivers rank or how you rank with other drivers. And then it allows us to do much more intricate global races with racers from all over the world, and people can watch it live. So that's the kind of the exciting components that are coming out of these smart contracts. So
yeah, and talking about features that any other game has. I don't know if you guys already looked into onto the website, but look out for the giraffe. He shows up for some reason in every picture. So awesome.
Yeah, we have a giraffe infestation, actually. It's your fruit. I mean, we blame Coorest. It's gotten to be. I mean, they're welcome neighbors, but they're giving our photographer a lot of hassle with just wandering into photo shoots and various activities on the track. No giraffe have been hurt in the development of the metaverse, but we're just concerned about their well-being. And so, but they've been great. But so we're helping the Giraffe Conservation Foundation raise money for various programs that they do, which is basically buy sanctuary space and make sure that the giraffes have all the care that they need and food and whatnot. We're partnered with Extinction Partners, and they've developed a tiger and a tiger cub NFT project that raised a bunch of money for tigers. And so they're in our sphere. And so we decided to get together with them. And I mean, it's funny that, it turns out that your trees are what really attracted the giraffes. So we couldn't be happier about that. But when
one thing happens from another, right? So when you have one idea, it comes to multiple ideas after that. So that's the cool thing.
Well, and we'll have to, if the giraffes like it, maybe we'll have to collaborate on a Coorest and RPM preserves or jam product line or something like that. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, we can't just let the giraffes have all the fun. So we'll get on that. But I think I don't want to take over your interview, but I think one of the cool things that we've done in terms of our strategic partners is really invite our strategic partners into our game, right, and make them part of the fabric of the metaverse. And I think I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see the website or any of the materials that we put out, but we have a part of the racetrack called Coorest Corner, and it features a forest of Coorest trees that we're using to offset our carbon footprint for the game. And we've worked with the team at Coorest to kind of figure out, okay, how many trees would we actually need to offset the carbon footprint of the game that we've built so far, and then what would be the operational level needed to keep the game carbon neutral for the real world. And we're very serious about that. We're very committed to doing that. But also one thing we wanted to do as well is we have an infinite metaverse space. And so we want to look at, okay, how many trees would be required to actually offset the emissions by a real racetrack, a functional racetrack. And there's stats about how F1 does it, but I think we'd like to expand that Coorest Forest out and maybe have a second national preserve of trees somewhere on the outside of the track where maybe the giraffes can be run more freely over there as well. So, but I think the important point is that that Coorest tree has led to so many inspirational ideas where it sort of unlocked what could be done in the metaverse. And I think it was a really important part of us understanding our metaverse and be able. I mean, we designed the car and the track and things like that, but anybody can do that. I think it's how do you make it personal and how do you get your partners involved where these collaborations are much more than an exchange of a few AMAs for, let's say, some NFTs or something like that. I think it's much cooler when, we can work together to make the metaverse a quasi-reality type space and bend reality and play with reality. I mean, that's what the fun of the drafts are, and
exactly.
So, I mean, I think it's really cool what Coorest has done and the fact that you guys were willing to collaborate with us and allow us to take a risk on us and, make some trees and make you a car and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess it really anchored that part of the track, and it gave us the inspiration for doing the drafts and something else. I mean, because the tree is just a perfect prop. It's tall enough to see from the race car, and everybody knows what it looks like. So, and that's kind of how the giraffe thing started as well. So, I mean, I think the collaboration between RPM and Coorest has been really important for us, and I think the support that we've seen from you guys and the enthusiasm is something that we want to continue to build on, because I think it makes the collaboration more interesting for the community. And I don't know. I mean, I think the metaverse is really about using your imagination, and it's an imaginative thing, but you can interact with it. And I think that's where people become, when we give them that opportunity to do so, they get excited about the opportunities that they can do and create, and sort of let their imaginations run wild. So I think it's, we're really excited about it, and we hope to continue it.
And that is great to hear, and that is also one of our things that we always looking for new partners to collaborate with. Not only with, of course, what Coorest is all about making the blockchain in the world more sustainable, but also share knowledge on this field, and together we can make this all work. So yeah. Well, the more partnerships, the better, and we are all here to, they always say the blockchain can release so much more than only crypto trading and so forth. But we're really looking forward to collaborate with you guys, and we'll see where it ends. Hopefully never ends, but we will see. And so that gives me another question that popped to mind. So if you look where you are right now, what can we expect from RPM in a couple of, I don't know, what's your roadmap? Couple of weeks, months? Where we go to?
Well, we're currently minting, right? So, that's our main focus right now. So we're doing a modular mint because of we're allowing people to actually customize their own NFT. So the first process is purchasing the rights, or the car, right? It's sort of like going to the dealership and ordering a car. You can see it from a variety of colors and options, and you pick the options that are available for that model, and then you wait a couple of weeks and you get the model delivered to you after they finish manufacturing it. So that's kind of what we're doing with these smart contracts, and it allows us to make sure that everything was done correctly, because this is a newer process, and so we wanted to make sure that we didn't jam everything up permanently from the very start. So we're doing it in sort of a modular fashion. So the first module is selling the NFT itself, the car, and then there will be a second stage where you're allowed to choose colors and which pinstripes you want, and whatnot, and then there will be a random generalization of performance metrics, and then that car will be manufactured and delivered. So, like for instance, if you go to if you mint an NFT now in OpenSea, you will have an NFT race car, but it will be silver. It'll be it'll be basically down to the steel. So there's no finishes on that. So what will happen is that will evolve into the car that we actually end up building for you. So, which is kind of a cool process. It builds a little anticipation. It gives people the freedom to choose. And so the UI for the selection process will be up in a week or so, and that way people can start really customizing their cars, and that they'll be able to get them pretty soon. And so the idea is that by the time those are all done, then the game should be the NFT should be the wallet in the game should be connected, and therefore they can start playing the game and earning the token, and it'll be a proper ecosystem at that point. And so we're looking to that next week or two, I think, would be realistic for connecting the wallet. But again, that could change. But I think that probably about 2 weeks or so is the realistic timeline on that. And in between, we're releasing we have a new game trailer that's being worked on. I've got a meeting with the designer after this call, and we're going to go through the trailer. It's going to look absolutely spectacular, and we're very excited about it. We're adding some new things to the game. So there's new assets that are going in the game, and so I think those are the main drivers at this point for the next couple of weeks, or let's say a month out. And then just try to keep building the community and make sure that people are aware of us, and we try to communicate our merits and just try to grow it as organically as we can. So we've got a couple of new big anchor assets for the track, which will be a dirigible airship docking station for Venley. We're talking about doing for eGamers, which is another partner. We're doing a potential space program with a rocket launch pad and a hangar. And then we have to install the Osmodo Mach 1 manufacturing facility on the track. And so that's going to be something that we'll be putting in. So there'll be a lot of updates aesthetically to the game. Obviously, there's probably going to be more giraffes coming into, the interaction with the track. And then, we'll that will probably bring us into second quarter with that kind of stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but those are kind of the major milestones. I mean, down the road, we'll release some new cars and, I'm sorry, a multiplayer feature will be done probably before the end of June. And then we'll get it on Android and iOS as well. And then as soon as we can, we'll do it into VR. So that's kind of the roadmap for now. I mean, we could start talking about Q3 and Q4, but I think unless we get through Q2, it's not going to matter.
Well, the only advice that I can give you, make sure you have some sleep.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of going on that I hear of.
Yeah, last week was quite busy leading up to the Mint, but
yeah, can imagine.
But it's you got to move quickly here, and I think
definitely
part of it is execution is really important. I think that's what separates projects that end up being completed and successful are simply the ones that actually just finished. I mean, it's all homework. It's just a series of simplistic tasks that have to be replicated thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and it's just, are you willing to go through the minutia of all these, tick this box and do this and then get this done and, and so there's a lot of bureaucratic administrative part to creating one of these things. And so we're happy that we're through most of the heavy lifting of that. And now the fun can really start in as a game and we'll try to get as much sleep as we can. But I think right now my dog is just trying to do as much as she can to sleep on my behalf. So she's trying to pull her weight finally. So, but yeah, I mean, we're happy. We're in a good place. I think we have a good solid foundation and we have good core assets and we have really good tokenomics that allow us to have a really sustainable game for a really long time. And that's exciting. So, I mean, people may disagree with the aesthetics of the game or the various concepts of the game, but it's pretty hard to argue with the tokenomics, and it's pretty hard to argue with the smart contracts. And so those will take on a life of their own and contribute a lot to people's sort of interest in the project. And then I think we'll see, I think the game will take off. I mean, if you look at the growth of most of these games or any of these sort of blockchain projects, it's slow and then straight up. And so we're still in that slow part, but we've just launched. And I think as we add more features, more people will hear about us. I think the multiplayer will be a big feature because it will allow people to just play against their friends and family and join a server and play with people around the world. It will make a more communal type thing.
And this is also going to be an adventure. Take it as an adventure, and you're going to have come across a lot of amazing adventures and cool stuff, and eventually, everything will work out.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it is a you don't, excuse the pun, but you don't know what is around the turn, right? And it's around the corner, right? So
that's the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're up to it, Michael, I want to go to some questions the community already put in the AMA question channel.
Fire away.
Let me see if I start at the front. I have a question from Doonfiz. Does RPM support a staking system? In that case, what's the advantage?
Yes, we will have a staking system. And we're still working out the details on that. I think that will come. I probably should have mentioned that as part of something that happens in Q2. Part of that was getting everything lined up with the smart contracts, making sure that the Mint was operating functionally and correctly, and same thing with the game. And so I think I think what happened over the last 2 weeks is that the team as a whole has really gelled. And I think it allowed us to do a lot of work in a very short period of time. And now we're kind of in a rhythm. And so things like the staking, that should get added fairly swiftly. But you'll be able to stake tokens and there'll be a reward for it. I mean, I can elaborate that on down the road as we get more details, but that's kind of where we are. We do want to do staking. and we will at some point, and it'll be a sort of a traditional model for the game.
Cool. And if we're looking at to security about the audit, is that approved already?
I'm sorry?
The audit? Code audit, is that approved?
The audit of the smart contract?
Yeah.
Let me check. I think it's being done. I can speak to our developer who's writing the smart contract. But that's a good question. Let me get back to the person on that. Let me message him now. I can probably still get you an answer before the end of the AMA.
We have plenty of time to after the AMA where we can answer all the questions that are not asked today. So that will be good.
Yeah. If you're able to capture them, I'll go through each one and respond.
Definitely. Sure. So if we
Charlotte, I just got a message from Brian basically saying that it has not been audited yet, but it will be submitted shortly for audit. So we can tell you the status of that as it happens. So to the person that asked that question, that's as much information as we have at the moment. But it hasn't been, but it will be shortly.
Okay, good to know. We have another question. We already talked about a little bit of the economics. So how will the economy be maintained to keep the races fair and competitive, to attracting long-term players versus just the most upgrades will win factor, pay to win?
Well, okay, so that's kind of a multi-pronged question. So I would say that in terms of rewards, we've allocated 75% or 750 million tokens for rewards. The idea is that 10% of that each, or let's say 75 million each year, will be used for rewards. And so so that's how I think we can keep it sustainable. So if you look at the tokenomics, there's really a very small amount of team tokens. The tokens that are allocated for rewards will be locked up, so there won't be that many tokens outstanding that could be sold or do a rugger type of thing. Then the rest of it is marketing and some stuff like that. So available for sale is 15%. I think it's a pretty conservative tokenomics, and it will stay that way. And we'll look to anything that we can do in the future to make the game as sustainable and secure as possible. Because here's something we have a lot of our demographic that's participating in our game is playing it because they buy food and things that they need for their family. And so this is a income for people, and I think we really respect that and appreciate that they would use us as a means to help their family. And so we need to make sure that whatever we put out there is something that if they're going to dedicate their valuable time to play the game, that to develop those needed resources for their family, then we need to make sure that it's an environment where they can convert that to a currency that they can buy the things that they need with it, and that they can depend on that going forward. Because this is a huge part of the play to earn is playing just to survive in many respects. And so it's important for us to create an ecosystem that they can rely upon and make sure that there's a very simple mechanical way for them to convert what they win in the game to cash. So was there other caveats to that question, or did that cover?
I believe that if this is not answered, people can ask more in the AMA question, so we can go more into depth. But let's go to the next question, and this one I'm very curious about as well. How can we get our hands on that awesome Coorest car?
Well, I can drop the link here. It's just go to our website and click on connect your wallet, and then you can mint. Each car is a 100-matic. I can just drop. Here's the current. I don't know if you guys can.
Or you can put it in the AMA questions chat as well, so people can see it there.
This is embarrassing. How do I do that?
We can do it afterwards.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sure. I forget.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not a Discord newbie entirely, but I still have some blind spots. So dropping a text into a group chat during an AMA is something I have not encountered yet. So I'll work on that for next time. But we'll get it to you. But you go to our website. You'll connect your wallet. You click mint. and then you'll see it open in OpenSea. All right, and you'll notice that it's a silver version of the car, and then we'll communicate with the audience about when they can start customizing it and choosing the different colors and rarities and things like that. So I think people, I think the initial reaction is, oh, well, I want my car, but I think it's cooler to kind of have to wait and then to have it, instead of just getting a random car, that you get some sort of control over how it will look, and then kind of create some of the rarities by the color choices that you use and stuff like that. So it's sort of a different dimension to it, but I don't know. I just think the modular fashion is kind of cool, and then it gives you something to wait for and build some anticipation, and also hopefully we can, by the time we get everything finished, that it will be playable in the game at that time, right? So that way you can get it and then you can immediately start playing. Whereas now you'd get a random car and it wouldn't have any value or wouldn't have any ability to be played, and it wouldn't have the sort of the dynamic features that we're doing. So we think it's worth the wait, but obviously we want to get them done as quickly as possible. But yeah.
So, and is there going to be an extra benefit per NFT car, or are there specific cars that have more benefit than others?
Are you talking about the Coorest car? Is that what you were referring to?
No, the cars in general, the other cars.
I mean, well, benefits of owning them? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you mean? I mean, other than you get to play them in the game and they're cool looking and they grow value and you can sell them in the secondary market for more than you paid for, or is there something like
updating them? And also, for example, you can update your car, and you have specific benefits as we talked about that when you own a Coorest car.
Sure. So, I mean, to answer the first part of the question, there will be in-game upgrades that affect their engine and steering and traction and suspension and things like that. And then those will obviously help the car perform more, and then should yield more wins, and that should make you more money. And those ingredients will be stored in the game. And then we're thinking about we talked about this as developing a Coorest NFT car for the game, which would be a limited run. We would only do it in with an electric engine, and you could only buy it if you had a Coorest NFT tree, right? So that would unlock the ability to buy that electric car. Otherwise, everyone else would have a normal sort of combustion engine. So, like, we're I think a lot of it is also trying to figure out how to like when we do a collaboration, how do we really, because we're really collaborating with the community, right? Because the audience that I'm speaking to today is here because they're from Coorest, and that's great. And so that's a wonderful opportunity for RPM to have an audience with a different group and a different community. And I think as the collaborations evolve, we learn how to better tailor these collaborations to the needs of the community or the wants of the community. And so, we're trying to create as a group, okay, so what would really, add value to the average community member who wants to buy a Coorest car versus a normal RPM car. And so, we try to tailor it. So one of the things we were talking about was, if you had this car, obviously you'd have reduced gas fees. But even if you didn't have a Coorest car, but you had a Coorest tree, we're trying to work out a way where you would pay reduced gas fees or entry fees for the game. And so it's these little things, these little details that we can work on and develop over time that really allows us to maintain the collaboration and build the partnership where hopefully by 6 months or a year from now, that there's Coorest is a household name within not only our ecosystem but other groups as well, and they they buy that Coorest car because it's a little bit faster and it's got a little bit better handling than the other cars, and that and it's cheaper to run because you don't have to pay for gas or something like that. It creates demand. It creates a sort of a real world kind of like, oh, I really want to have that kind of thing. So yeah. So I mean,
So you're basically creating a community within a community. So specific people only want to have like a Coorest car, or you want only have a family car, or et cetera, et cetera. But that's the thing as well.
Exactly. And they can, their community has a chance to help design it, right? So it really feels like something that is collaborated on. And we want to go beyond that. I mean, I think that it's more about with these collaborations, you meet very interesting people who have great ideas. And so, it opens things up to us that we probably wouldn't have thought of and hopefully vice versa. And so, we look at this metaverse as almost an infinite, real estate project where we could build. I mean, it reminds me, like in a very simplistic way of like a Sim City or some sort of game where you're building farms and whatever. But in this case, it's okay. We're starting with a racetrack. What makes sense to add around that racetrack, and then what doesn't make sense but looks really cool, and then trying to push the envelope that way to kind of build it out, and then okay, what do we build on the outside of the racetrack, and where do we put the next racetrack, and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, it's constantly evolving, but it's the fun part is getting more people involved and getting them excited about it, because then it kind of inspires us to sort of, make it into a reality. And we, one thing that we have is a great art department and great design team that can make it into a reality. And so that's really cool to be able to take these concepts and put it into a 3-dimensional model or a 3-dimensional vignette that shows kind of what we're talking about. I mean, when we made this banner for this AMA, it was, you had been thinking about trying to make Thinking Man as a RPM car for a while. And so putting that together with the rest of the assets that we have for Coorest in that AMA was really fun, because it allows us to really operate within the metaverse and to like be familiar with it and say, oh, let's put this here. And I know the track so well, and I know the things that we have so well that it's easy for us to do it. And it's that's the part where you really become sort of blended with the metaverse, and you can blend that reality and you can blend fact and fiction together, and you can get away with it because you're in a metaverse. And I think that's really the exciting part of this whole project.
And it's endless, so that's the cool thing also of metaverse. You can go on and on and on.
Exactly. So, as long as you want to pay for the
yeah.
Right?
That's a little
but I mean, if that's your only limitation, that's not much of a limitation.
No, definitely. It's just, if you see that limitation, it will be a limitation. That's the only thing. So if we look at the cars, how many can there be minted in total?
Well, we're thinking about capping it at 3,000.
Oh, wow.
So we're working towards that now. But the reason that we want to keep it around that number, I mean, we had played with any number between 1,000 and 3,000. We wanted to make them relatively inexpensive, although we have the extra features of the dynamic and the storage and whatnot. We thought 100-matic is a good price, and then also to we love making these new cars. It's like designing your own toy. So we want to make more race cars, and so part of the reason of keeping them small is that we want to have a limited edition, so they are rare, and then it gives us an excuse to design a brand new car, right? which is a lot more fun than just selling the existing cars. So I think we'll probably cap it around there, and then we'll come up with a new car maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple months down the road. I mean, we have a, it's like every time I see a car, I'm living in Miami at the moment, and so every time I see an amazing car, I'm thinking like, maybe that should be the new car, and like I'm trying to talk to people like, hey, can I make your car into? I mean, I'm literally asking people if I can make their cars in NFTs, and everyone says yes so far. So we have a long list of people that want to do it. So, so we'll probably do about 3,000. We'll kind of cap it, but what I will say is that each car, like, okay, so this is a based off of like a 40s model F1 race car, right? And so one thing we tried to do is program it so that it would be able to compete with whatever car in the future that we make, right? So it's not like you buy this car and you can never race it after a new car comes out. And so we're going to try to weight all the cars so that it is competitive. And I think someone asked about how we keep the cars fair and everything. So we're building into that where you can't make a super duper car and then just blow up everyone and kind of blow up the point of the game. So we're adding those safeguards into it. And also one of those is just allowing us for that the Bullet Racer could be the only car that you ever need if you were so inclined, right? And you could compete against a Bugatti or a Ferrari, whatever we decide to put in there in the future. This is not going to be outdated. And so I think one thing that we looked at was, and one thing that was really important to me was capturing some of them just iconic cars or some iconic looks. And I think that really, with the juxtaposition of a modern track, some of these older cars really pop. And when you guys see the demo or see the trailer, it's like racing porn. So we're very excited for these different models. So I would say that stay tuned to what we come up with next.
Yeah. And if we were looking at the leaderboard, will it be daily, weekly, or will the race only start if there are enough players? So how will it look?
Well, the global leaderboard, the races will be real time. Like the leaderboard should be updated in real time. It hasn't been built yet, but we've gone through the technical requirements and what is possible. And I think the global leaderboard will be real time, and it will allow for all the race data from all the races that are being played to be stored and instantaneously updated so that people can track their thing. We'll also use it for special tournaments. And then to answer your question about entering the race, um, we're still working all the specifics on how that will work. Like we're thinking of a couple of different ways. One would be there would be a play to earn function where you would buy gas and enter a race, and there could be various grades, right? So if you're a beginner, maybe you don't want to spend a lot of money on a race, you can enter a smaller race and have a smaller prize pool. Or if you're a more advanced player and you want to gamble a little bit more, you can enter in. It's sort of like you go to a blackjack table, you can spend $5, you can spend $500, right? So it just kind of what you want to put in. And there could be a practice mode where they could either get some experience points or they could just improve their driving, and that would not be you would not have to pay for gas or something like that. So we're still that's kind of the models that we're thinking about now. But basically, we want to make it accessible for everyone, and so we'll try to have a variety of entry points that people can get in, and then also we'll have a scholarship program where if people buy cars, they can rent them out to people, or they can have a person that can be a scholar and play that way. So the idea is that we want as many people to be able to play it as possible, right? And to enjoy it and ultimately benefit from it, because ultimately the people that we should be most concerned about are the people who are playing the game to buy food and things for their family, because ultimately that's sort of the most fragile element of all of our group. And I think so if we can kind of make it possible for them to get part of the ecosystem and benefit from the ecosystem and make sure they have a secure currency that they're dealing in or getting paid in, and that means that is a little bit less fragile for those people, and that means that we're doing our job.
Yeah, definitely. So you're saying that you want to provide for that people play the game can provide for the families and et cetera, et cetera. Is that also?
Let me give you an example. We have a person part of our community who has 2 children who are disabled, and she's a stay-at-home mom, and her full-time job is taking care of those children, right? And so one way she supplements her income is through playing play to earn games, right? So it's an important thing for her and her family, right? And so it's someone like that takes a play to earn structure very seriously, and I think we should take it as seriously as they do. And I think that's so. I mean, when you picture it that, I mean, okay, there's a lot of people who are just playing for fun, and if they get some tokens, great. But there's a whole flip side of this business, and what really attracted me to Play to Earn in the beginning was that these are actual ecosystems, right? And there's real people living real lives who are really benefiting from this. When you look at their other alternatives, right? Because they're choosing to play this game because they're making more money than they can make somewhere else, and that's great. And as long as they can convert that readily into a local currency that they can spend, well, that's a pretty cool way to sort of hedge your position if you're not finding a great job or you're in kind of a danger, a bad spot. It's a way to kind of keep things going. And so, that will always remain a really important part of how we build this thing with that in mind, because I think that's ultimately that's our foundational responsibility, right? So because if they spend a bunch of time and whatever they get, they can't get out or they can't convert it, then they've blown, hours and hours or weeks of their time where they could have been spent, working and earning money. And that's just unacceptable. So our goal is to continue to make sure that this is
it's a very good cause. And I think that a lot of projects can do more of that as well. I know that a lot of projects have that as a goal, but the more the better.
Well, and I think it actually makes it much easier. It creates a much easier path forward. I mean, the initial sort of partnership that we got with you has led to so many other ideas that have materialized into new communities and new people playing the game and the game benefiting. And I think NFTs are really the smartest, simplest way for people to to invest or to donate to charity. I mean, it makes it so much easier than having to fill out a form or go to some website or write a check or something. If you can just buy an NFT, especially if you're crypto savvy as it is, or even relatively crypto savvy, you can hold these things and benefit from them, and also benefit the charities. And it's an instantaneous, very transparent project, and so or process. And so I think it's just a superior way of donating to charity. I think we'll see a lot more charities doing it in the future. I mean, I can give you an example. When I initially wrote the Giraffe Conservation Council, the lady thought I was completely nuts. She had no idea what these were. We had no idea what we were talking about. So I had to send her. So we bought a giraffe off of the Unity Asset Store and stuck it in the game and stuck it next to a tree and said, "This is what we're thinking about." And then she got it, right. And then she was like, "Oh, this is cool." And so then I mean, it's something that they had never even thought of. But I mean, if you look at what Extinction Partners raised for the Cubs, it's an impressive amount of money, right? And so we can happily go to these foundations, and the next one that we're looking for is a food shelf, because we want to add a concession stand to the game, and we'll make like $1 or $2 NFT sandwiches, right? So a cup of coffee and a sandwich will cost you maybe $2.50 or $3 or something like that. We won't charge ridiculous grandstand fees for food, but like, if you're filling up gas and you can buy a sandwich, and then that sandwich can go directly to a food shelf, either in the U.S. or in Europe or Asia or wherever, and we can have partnerships with that. And so and you can have a line of, and then you can go to, let's say, a pizzeria, or you can go to you can do all these different things. You can infinite number of charities that you could use, and it's it's okay, it's good PR or whatnot, but it's a logistically smart way of getting resources to the right people in the right way. Right, with the least amount of bureaucracy and the least amount of administrative cost. It's just a very efficient way of donating, and so it helps us build out our infrastructure, because we can think about, okay, well, if we wanted to, okay, we can feed. Now we're feeding giraffe, right? Well, if we're feeding giraffe, we should be feeding people as well. So how do we feed people? Okay, well, let's make it really simple so that everyone who's playing the game, or for most people that are playing the game, don't mind kicking in an extra few cents or a few dollars to get an NFT sandwich, so that a family can get fed, or a person that's living on the street has access to a shelter or a food bank that allows them to get something to eat. So, that's something that's very important to me personally, homelessness and hunger. And so I've worked on projects in the past for it. And so it's going to be an important part of what we do future. And I think as our roadmap unfolds, we'll see a lot of new charitable angles that we can incorporate, because, we have ample space to put the stuff in. And I think we've been sort of, very lucky with Coorest and the Giraffe Foundation to have positive responses. But I think once we start proving the case, and you guys have already proven the case with Coorest, that we can, like, we're not, this is not some gimmick. We can deliver resources, right? And as soon as we start delivering capital to these charities, well, it'll be like wildfire. So that's also a really important part of what we're doing, and it's kind of, it makes the whole thing worthwhile. It's more than a video game. It's a metaverse, and that metaverse can be moving in the right direction towards where we think our regular universe should be living in, or not. And I think hopefully we're trending in that right direction.
Eventually, other projects will find their way to RPM as well. So that will be a two ways, and that would be.
Well, and we're thinking about maybe incorporating some of the meta ring into that, where owning the ring will jump from metaverses, or maybe a tree. Maybe there's an apple or some forbidden fruit, something that we could connect that would allow us to move from one metaverse to the next. But yeah, I mean, I said this to you last week, but our answer to most questions like that is yes, absolutely. And how do we make it work? How do we put it together? What's the logistical process for incorporating it? But I think what we've found so far is that if you can imagine it, you can build it. And so it might take us a little bit of time, but if we like the idea, we'll work on it and we'll grind on it until we get it.
Yeah. And then even you can also combine, because there's a question as well for combinations of Coorest, the 315 Guild, and Extinction Fighters, for example. Is that also something that you guys are thinking of, combining things in the metaverse itself?
The 315 Guild?
Sorry?
Can you repeat the question?
So I have a question that is, so can there be combinations of Coorest, 315 Guild, and Extinction Fighters mods? I believe they, of the car, so the combination of those three things in the car.
Oh, so three different types, like a well, I think it would probably yes. I mean, I guess the issue would be how to do it with the contracts. I would say definitely maybe. I think for now, the reason that we might not do it is because we were thinking about doing something where each each partner would have the opportunity to mint their cars.
Mm-hmm.
They would have specifications that they would choose, and then the community can, if they want to buy those cars or use those cars, they can see how they compete against other. So it's kind of like almost like a racing team, right? So a racing team makes a decision about which engine they use, what the weighting is, the suspension, all that stuff, and we think that might be better to create kind of a sense of competitiveness between partners or just the community in general, where the Coorest car is known for these characteristics, and if you drive in a particular way, this car is the best car for you, or that type of thing. But maybe we would do like a monster car or like a Franca car or something where you'd have all the things in one or something like that. But that would be further down the road. But I think first we want to make sure that each of the partners has a really cool car and has very competitive metrics on it, so that if their community does participate and buy it, then they get, like we want, like, there's 750 million tokens, right? So we want people to have them, right? The more people have these tokens, the more people are using this, the more robust and anti-fragile the whole metaverse gets, right? And it's like, it's like having red blood cells in your bloodstream. You want to have a lot if you can, right? So the if we can get tokens into people's hands and they start using them and interacting with the metaverse via the token, then it's a huge win for us. So we want to give rewards. We want prize money to go out. We want to pay people, right? So it's important that we push these out. I mean, obviously they'll be done in an organized fashion. We're not just going to dump things, but if you play your game, I mean, okay, in the traditional world of finance, there's a term called opportunity cost. Okay, so opportunity cost, for those that don't know, is that, okay, if you have a fixed amount of money, you're evaluating which opportunity gives you the best return with that fixed amount, right? And so the opportunity to do one eliminates the opportunity to do another one, right? Because your finite money is exhausted with that one. So we look at that in the same way, where if you're going to spend an hour playing the game and you're going to pay for the NFT, well, its opportunity cost should be at least as good by definition as your other next available opportunity. And if it isn't, well, then you're probably not going to spend an hour playing the game and buying the NFT. So whatever we create, whether it's a car with multiple features from different partners or a single car for a single group that is done in a single way, the idea is that the end user should still have a very positive experience, and that their opportunity cost should not always be maximized, but at least be respected, so that they're, hopefully they like playing the game because it's fun. But if they are playing the game for financial purposes, that it's in a competitive area where they are looking at their opportunity costs and saying, okay, well, maybe if I'll play RPM because it's better than some of these other ones, then that's kind of how that's sort of our core philosophy, right? Is say, okay, well, what's the end user's experience going to be like, right? Because if we respect that, then they're much more likely to play. And if we disrespect that, then we've seen many examples of what happens when that happens. So we want to avoid that.
Well, that is amazing, Michael. I think, yeah, again, this is a great concept that you guys created. I'm definitely the thing of being CO2 net zero, but also having like the other social events like the charities and stuff. And building something that is unique, that's not in the metaverse yet. So I only want to say keep up the good work. Love the graphics, like I said. We're very impressed with the graphics. So
okay. Well, and also
looking forward to see something more.
Does everyone get the link for the demo? I can send that as well. I don't know if you guys have. It's on Game Jolt for now. The most recent one is up. It has the AI cars in and everything. So if you guys don't have that, I'll share that link with Charlotte as well, and she can pass that around as well. So I'm going to send you this link and then the link to our website for the Mint, right? Those are the two things that.
Yeah, you can put everything in the May question chat, so people can go to the link.
Okay, and then also, if there's any questions that I didn't get to today that people wanted to ask, I don't know, you can share my Discord, or you can message me directly, or I can give you can email us or what. I'm happy. I mean, if you've taken the time to actually join and I didn't answer your question, then the least I can do is respond. So I have time today to get back to you if you do have additional questions. So please feel free to do so.
I will put everything in this AMA question channel, so people can contact you directly via Discord or via Twitter. As always, I'm coming with some bad news. We're only going to wrap this up for today. So is there anything else that you want to tell the community? You can go for it. Or people want to come to the stage for asking anything to Michael?
I should speak now or forever hold my peace. Is that what you're saying?
No, definitely not. But if you have the chance to have the last 3 minutes, all yours.
Okay. I would say that, we're trying to build a community, and we love it. You guys to join our Discord and Twitter and stuff like that. But I guess what we really want is your imagination. And I think what we've seen is that when we start offering people the ability to use their imagination to think about how to make the game better, they get very excited about it, and it makes us excited. And so I don't want to come off as like new agey and whatnot, but when people start using their imagination focused on a particular thing, good things typically happen. And so I would say that if you want to join and kind of use your imagination, we'd love to hear from you. And I'm pretty active in the chats, and I'm usually pretty accessible. And I'm genuinely building this as we go. And it's sort of a live process. And I think, it makes the metaverse much more real and much more organic. And I think if people feel like they're empowered to be inspired or empowered to use their imagination, they will use it. And I think so. I mean, obviously, we'd love people to buy a car and play the game. That's as the CEO of this company, that is my ultimate responsibility to our stakeholders. And at the same time, I think the best way to do that is to get people to love it, or to get people endeared with it, or to have some sort of connection, because it's just code at the end of the day. And okay, it's a visual representation of a lot of programming and development and code and these types of things. But we think that it can be so much more. And so we invite whoever wants to join us and to sort of continue to make this. And I would say that if someone in this AMA knows of a very good food charity, I definitely wanted to talk to them, because making that into a reality is very easy for us to do. I know my developer's head is exploding right now as I'm making these promises for them. But if you guys have someone or another charity that you're fond of, or that you have a lot of respect for, or that you think might fit into us, let us know. And if we can make it happen, we definitely will, because getting all those partners is good karma, and it's good for business. So I guess in closing, I would close that way. So just communicate with us. We want to hear from you. We want your suggestions, or if there's a problem, let us know. And yeah, welcome to our metaverse.
Well, that's a great ending. And I want to thank you so much for your time, because I know you're very busy at the moment. Great to have you talking about RPM. Great for you talking to our community, and hopefully we have some more good adventures together as two projects.
Yeah, we've got some surprises lined up that we probably want let your community know about. So I'm sure that this is not work for me, right? Doing these AMAs, and this is the most important thing that I do every day, and it's super important that we get to talk to people about our game, and we're proud to talk about it. We're excited to talk about it. So anytime that we are welcome back, we would definitely jump at the opportunity, and we'll try to get messages out to you guys if we're having an AMA on any channels that we think that your community would like to hear from. So so thanks again, and I hope I got everyone's questions answered. And I'll see you on the track.
Yes, definitely. And for at least last thing is that we had two prizes. We have one NFT RPM race car and one Coorest NF3 plot. The winners will get a notification in their Discord chat. So please look for that. I want to welcome everybody to if you have any more questions, put them in the AMA. We'll make sure Michael gets them and can answer them for you. And for now, I want to thank you all for your time and hope to see you soon in the next AMA with Coorest. Have a great one, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.